the door right now to everybody who's joining us on the webinar link. So welcome everybody. We're excited to be here with you for today's Agent Spotlight interview. As always, I have my partner and cohort in the Growth Guys podcast, John Kitchens.
What's
up,
happening?
John?
What's going on? How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. And so more importantly, our featured guest today is somebody that we've got to know pretty well, I would say, over the last couple of years, having spent some time with her at some of our events in person, and through a group of us have had a chance to work with her as she's been growing her business. So we have Renee Sherry Velasquez with us today. What's up, Renee?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing awesome. Thank you for spending some time with us today.
Absolutely. I'm excited.
So to start everybody off who's listening with us today, why don't you just give us a little bit of background, like when you got into real estate, what your market looks like, and just share with us a little bit of that backstory.
Sure. So I actually got into real estate in 2008. That usually makes people's eyes go real big because there weren't a whole lot of people getting into real estate in 2008. There was a whole lot of people getting out of real estate in 2008. But yeah, I worked corporate America for a really long time, and my husband at the time was overseas fighting the good fight. And I was working for corporate America, and we had a son, and I was working about 60 hours a week for someone else. And my little guy, all he kind of knew was this, I'm always on the phone saying, hey, just 1 minute, one minute, and I thought, wow, if I'm working these kind of hours for someone else, imagine what would happen if I put that same amount of work and work ethic and dedication into something for myself. So got into real estate, and we actually started investing first. And we bought a couple houses from the same real estate agent. And then, of course, the real estate agent did the right thing and said, hey, have you ever thought about getting into this? And I'm like, shoot, no. I'm like, I work 60 hours a week. I'm basically a single mom, and my husband's on the other side of the world. But lo and behold, I did and got my license, and that's kind of where it really just got my license for investment purposes. And then, people found out that I had my license, so they started calling me. And before I knew it, I had a full-fledged real estate business and was like, oh, crap, like I might need to quit this corporate thing.
How long did it, I'm curious, Renee, what was that timeline? So how long, because we talked to a lot of people who, and just the whole part-time to full-time, right? So how long was it for you before you said, I am going to do this full-time?
Yeah. So I got my license in April of 2008. Cute story, everybody tells you not to tell anybody when you're going to take your test. My husband was home on what's called a 36, but for him, it was more like a 72 because it takes about 30 hours of travel just to get from where he was to me. And he came home, and I said, babe, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I love you, but I didn't have time to get my hair done before you got home. So I'm going to go get my hair done, and I'll be back in a couple of hours. He's like, okay. And I walked in the door after that couple of hours, and he's like, gosh, he's like, you look so great. Your hair looks amazing. I'm like, really? I'm like, I must have trained you really well because I didn't get my hair done. I went and took my real estate test. I'm a realtor now. And
That's awesome.
Right. So at any rate, so licensed in April 2008. In January of 2009, I was like, you know what? I really want to do this for myself and put those hours in for myself. So I committed, and I went to every class there was. I mean, every class there was. Like I sat in my brokerage, and they had a calendar, and like I was in everything, right? So it was like 4 months later, and my broker was like, he sees me, he's like, Renee, how's it going? He's like, how's real estate going? I'm like, it's going awesome. And he's like, that is so great. How many houses have you sold? I'm like, none. He goes, wait a minute. Why is it so great? And I'm like, I'm learning so much. He goes, you actually have to like leave the office to like sell real estate, right? And I'm like, but I don't know everything there is to know. Like he goes, Renee, trust me. You know more than most people know. And you certainly know more than the buyers and sellers out there. So what are you going to do to start selling real estate? So I started calling for sale by owners. And at that time in 2009, there was a lot of for sale by owner signs out because everybody was underwater, right? Nobody had the equity to pay a real estate agent, right? So they're all trying to do it themselves. So I started calling these for sale by owners. I have these 3 streets in my town that are kind of like major thoroughfares, right? So, and there was 4 for sale by owners on those streets. So I called one, and I literally picked up the phone, and he answered, and he's like, "I'm so glad you called. This is not going well for me." And it's like, okay. And I set an appointment, and I was all excited. And then I hung up the phone, and I was like, oh shit. Like, what do you do? Right.
Right.
So I had no idea what I was doing. And, I, of course, asked a bunch of questions. You're like, Renee, you're going to be fine. Like, you know what you're doing. Just go and be yourself and talk to them, find out what their problems are, and try to solve their problems. So I did that. And on the way back from that, when I got the listing, well, on the way back from that appointment, I drove by that same for sale by owner sign on one of those streets, and I pulled in the drive. Because I got a listing, like I had, my feathers were fluffed for me. So, right. So I pulled into the drive, and I knocked on the door, and this guy answers in a robe. And I don't know who was more shocked, me or him. I don't really know. And I just said, hey, I just got this listing down the street, and I'm going to be holding an open house on it on Sunday. And I just wanted to let you know that I'm holding the open house. So if you want to hold an open house at the same time, cool. That way the traffic that comes to mine, I'll send them your way, and the traffic that comes to yours. And he's like, wait, what? I said, well, I just wanted to know. He goes, why would you tell me about your open house? Like, you don't. And I'm like, well, you're trying to sell your house, right? And he says, yeah. And I go, well, maybe that can help. We can help each other. He still has this quizzical look on his face, and so do I, because he's standing there in a robe. Well, here's my card, and I was all excited. It was probably like number 2 card I ever gave out, right? One to my mom, and then to this guy. That's
great.
Right. So he called, and he's like, I had the open house that following, I got my new fresh shiny listing, and I got it all, ready, and I had my open house, and, I didn't hear from the guy. And 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from him, and he says, hey, you stopped at my house, and you said you were having an open house, this and everything. He's like, I think I want to talk to you. So between then and there, I then called 2 more FSBOs on those same streets. So now I got all 4 of them. Mm. So now I'm thinking, this is like taking candy from a baby. Like, I'm the best agent that has ever walked the face of the planet, because I just pick up the phone and I get these listings, right? Well, I sold one of those listings. The rest of them I didn't sell. Okay. But the cool thing about it is, out of those 3 listings I didn't sell, I sold 12 houses off of the buyers that came through those open houses and through that marketing. So it was a really great lesson right off the rip. And it was just and then everybody thought that, I would come from a town. It's not a really small town, but it's relative to Cleveland, it's small. And my whole sphere of influence was like, oh my God, Renee, we see you everywhere. I'm like, no, you don't. You just drive down the same 3 streets that I do. But perception's everything, right?
Yeah.
So they saw me everywhere. So that was a really long answer to your very short, quick question. Was so basically that part-time to full-time, it was just like, it was a 4-month situation. And I had people calling me, and in 2009, I think I sold like 16 transactions, which back then was a lot, because nobody was selling anything. On. No, everything was being foreclosed on and whatever. So, I was feeling pretty good about myself in 2009, and then 2010, I had to work at it. 2011, I had to work at it. But those lessons were cool. So
those are great lessons. I mean, that's definitely nuggets for anybody. Definitely getting into real estate, but also, just great little nuggets there. I mean, even, you have a listing and you see for sale by owner in the area, in the neighborhood. I mean, you need to go knock on their door and let them know what you're doing, and, or, phone call or whatever it is. I mean, I like the power of getting face to face and being able to, hey, just to help you out, add value, instead of, trying to take from them right out of the gate. And so, no, those are great little nuggets for everybody listening in, for sure.
I think that's awesome. Just being aware of what opportunity exists where you're at right now. You know, what's within proximity that could potentially be an opportunity for you. If you're at one property, look around. There might be somebody else that you can talk to. You know, I used to tell agents when it came to circle prospecting, you know, they talk about door knocking and should I go out and spend a bunch of time doing that? And obviously there's merits to it. But if I was going to really invest some time, what I would do probably is pull all the nurturers, people that are qualified that I had previously spoken to out of my database, go see those people and see if there's anybody else in my database that's also tagged that's close to that address. And so just like Renee did, within a mile, there's a few different opportunities. And if there's some alignment, like I love the open house. Hey, let's leverage each other. I think it was a great idea. I'm sure you tried. Did you use that again in other situations, and it's probably worked well for you?
I did. You typically get that strange look, like, why would you do that for me kind of thing. You know?
Yeah.
Awesome. You kind of, put them back on their heels a little bit. But it does. You're coming from contribution. You're not asking for something from them right off the rip. And they remember that. And whether they list their house with you or, they sell it on their own, or they remember that. So when somebody's actually looking for a realtor, they're like, you know what? I had this realtor show up and actually offer to kind of piggyback her open house on mine. I thought it was pretty cool. You should talk to that person. So interestingly enough, out of those, 4 houses, and I only really sold one of the listings, like you said, circle prospect, you never know what opportunities are going to come about. I never sold one. There was one almost right across the street from that very first one I got. And I remember 3 years later, like I said, I'm working at it, and I've got these Christmas cards, right? And I'm filling out these Christmas cards to these past clients and Sphere and whatnot. And when I got to those people in my database, because I didn't sell their house, I skipped over their name, right? And I was like, no, I'm not going to send them one because I failed them, right? I'm not going to send them one. So I got to the end of my Christmas card list, and there was one more Christmas card and one last name on that list. And it was the one that I passed over because I didn't want to send them one because I failed them before. So I said, okay, well, that's a sign. I got to send them a Christmas card. 2 months later, they called me and said, Renee, we got your Christmas card. We're looking to sell that house. They didn't end up selling the house. They ended up renting it again. They said, hey, we've done a ton of work to it. We're thinking about putting it on the market again. Are you interested? And I was like, what? And I did. Crazy. I went over there. I listed it. We sold it in 3 days for over asking price. And it just kind of goes to show you that you've got that self-doubt, those things that your brain tells you that aren't true. And something, thank you, said, just do it. You've got one card left, one name on the sheet of paper, send that out.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, it is. It's, we tell ourselves that story, right? And that's our perception of what was going on in this situation. And as long as you come in with every approach in those relationships, and you do everything that is the right thing to do, and you can lay your head on your pillow at night and knowing that you did your best, even if we don't sell 100% of the listings, it just doesn't happen, right? But you really put in the effort, you do the right thing, and even if you can't go through with it, you still want to nurture that relationship because you never know, right? And you never like you experience. So that's definitely another great nugget. What really helped you kind of jumpstart and get things going, going through 10, 11, and 12, and really what was kind of the additional 2 to get the business going? I mean, for sell by owner, that's what we always talk about, right? Lowest hanging fruit, easiest, to implement, closest to make the cash register ring. And so like for you, the next progression in the next few years, kind of what were some of the things that you really focused on that really helped you, moving forward?
Right. So like all really smart real estate agents, like I said,
Did we lose her?
Yep. Lost her for a second.
Must be that Cleveland internet.
So, when something works, you obviously say, that's weird.
Oh, Renee, you there? Oh,
Got me?
gotcha. All right.
That's weird. I usually don't have that problem. Anyway, I said, so like all smart real estate agents, when something's working, you stop doing it. So I stopped calling the for sale by owners, right? Because it was working. So why not just stop? So the next progression was I joined a networking group. That was super important. That was super like a great thing that helped me kind of catapult my business. And networking groups don't really work right off the rip. It's a relationship over time kind of thing, but that really helped a lot. And then once I started really networking with other business owners, things like that, the conversations change, right? You're hearing the things that they're doing, and you're hearing, you're talking to business owners. So they're not only managing the front end and the sales of their business, they're managing the back end and really digging deep into, what their expenses are, things like that. So my conversations started changing. When my conversations started changing, I was like, wow, I really need to start holding myself accountable to these things. So I got a coach. And I started with a productivity coach within my brokerage at the time, and we just started talking about really knowing my numbers and focusing on the people, but knowing the numbers. So it wasn't just a strict, here's the numbers, here's what you need to hit. It was about focusing on the people, but knowing the numbers. And that felt good to me. I have a really high I personality, if you can't tell. So focusing on the people made sense to me. I mean, I love numbers, don't get me wrong, but the people make sense to me. So I started doing that. And then once I kind of outgrew that relationship, if you will, then I hired a personal one-on-one coach, a mastery coach, and went through that, and then through the grace of being blessed by a great person that I eventually ended up partnering with in the past. He says, Renee, you really got to check something out. And I was like, well, what is it? He's like, it's coaching. I'm like, I'm already in coaching. I got you. Right. He's like, no, it's coaching like you've never seen before. And I was like, okay, tell me more. And he's like, you really need to look into this. And he brought an AEA to me, and he was absolutely right. It was coaching that like I've never seen before. It was 10 steps above, and it was what I needed at the time, right? And that truly was the difference maker over that time. So just making the investment in myself and my business and getting someone to hold me accountable and keep me focused.
I love that. I mean, I think everything you just said is textbook. For anybody listening in, if you're trying to figure out the steps, right things, right order, definitely the low-hanging fruit things. Networking group is a absolute must. For us, it was through the chamber. You don't have to go through the chamber if you don't want to. But if you do go through that route, you have to be super, super intentional on what it is that you want to contribute and get out of. You can get sucked in at the chamber level. You can get sucked into things that don't matter. For us, that's where the key relationships were that we developed. And, it was paramount, but also at the time, and here's the little nugget for you guys that you need to really tap into is you've got to get connected into the economic development committee inside of your town, inside of your community, because they know what's happening. And if you can position yourself as the go-to resource that what's going on in the market and being able to articulate it at a high level, you're going to position yourself as that go-to resource. So, exactly what Renee shared with you guys is absolutely textbook. If you've been like, man, I don't want to get into that, I ain't got time. You absolutely, it's an absolute must. Get in there, nurture those relationships, establish who the movers and shakers are in your community, who are the people that are making things happen. Tap into the economic development committee in any way you can. That way you have insider information, inside knowledge of what's going on, being able to add value. We can definitely talk about the get a coach. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I want to touch on a little bit of the, stop doing what's working. I think that's it happens to all of us. And Renee, for you, why does that happen? And kind of share your experience with it.
Yeah. So, so when you start having success, then you start working on what it is you were just trying to get, right? So now you got the business, and now you're like, now I need to take care of the business. So now I stop doing what was working to get the business, and then I take care of that. And then it's almost like you get so far removed from it, even if it's, a couple months, whatever, you get so far removed from it, next thing you know, you turn around and you're like, where's my next deal coming from, right? And you don't, for whatever reason, you don't look back and say, well, where did the business come from? Especially at that time. Not knowing any better, not having somebody to bounce that off of and have them go, well, where did your business come from before? And then all of a sudden you start looking at the bright, shiny objects, right? The bright, shiny objects jumping, well, this is working for me, or this is working for me. And yeah, it may be working for them, but they don't necessarily share with you that, hey, this is working for me. And by the way, I've been working at it for the last 3.5, 4 years, right? Like, this is working for me. And you're like, cool, I'm going to do that. And then you're like, why am I not having instant results? Because they don't share that part with you, right? So, and I had to be honest with you, for sale by owners, for whatever reason, from that point on, it's always been a struggle for me to want to pick up the phone and call for sale by owner, even though it was so easy back then. And you get that self-doubt, there's so much information available to them online, whereas back then, yeah, was it available to them? Yes, but were people actually digging to find it? Not so much. Now, and you just have that self-doubt that it's not going to work. It's not going to work, despite the fact that it's worked for you in the past. So, yeah, it's the bright, shiny object, and it's the not going back and really analyzing where your business came from. That's why it's always, quarterly, I look at my stuff and I'm like, okay, now I do it all the time. I look back and go, okay, where did my business come from this quarter? And, is there something rivaling something? Is there some type of seasonality with that? What's that looking like? And now I know that by looking at my past, I can pretty much dictate what my future is going to be if I dial in to what's working. So.
Yeah. They're fundamental pillars inside of your business. And, it's the J. Abraham, Power Parthenon, having as many, your business is a lot stronger the more pillars in the foundation you have, right? Oil wells, whatever you want to call them, that you have plugged into your business. And, the objective, the goal is that over time we're constantly adding, but we're not letting them fall off, right? We need to get these oil wells going, because at any given time, one may slow down or stop producing. But yet, if we've got 8 different revenue streams or sources of income in our business, it just makes our business that much stronger when one of them slows up, one of them slows down, right? So they're just really fundamental processes that we need to instill into our business.
I want to share something as somebody who's made thousands of phone calls, like Renee probably has, to expireds and for sale by owners and circle prospecting, you name it. I understand the challenge. I can appreciate anybody that does it, picks up the phone, especially somebody who's brand new and who has success doing it. But I'll tell you what I think. When you're brand new and you're somebody like Renee, who's going to be enthusiastic based on my impression, having met her, she's going to be enthusiastic if she's headed in that direction. She had some professional skills already, like a lot of us from previous employment. She could handle herself, and she's eager to get going. So it's easier almost to make the calls and when you're new, because what else is there to do? And you're all excited and you want to, make a good showing. But when you start to get into the process of now servicing that business, what usually happens in any situation, whether it's real estate or otherwise, is when things are good, why would I go back and make those calls? Like right now, I'm servicing the business and everything's good this month, next month, man, the margins look good the next 3 months. And so then for that 3 months, you're not pumping that oil well. And there's a saying, the hardest part about taking off in a plane is takeoff. Once you're at altitude, you can literally take your hands off the controls. But if you let that plane land, then you're going to have to take off again. And what most people do, and I think everybody really goes through it, is they stop and that muscle gets atrophy and it don't work. And then when you go back to do it, you just don't want to do it. And you try to replace the results you got with something else, a shiny object. Well, I'm going to use some automated text now instead because I don't want to make the calls. You kidding me? I ain't picked up the phone in 3 months. Hell no, I'm not picking up the phone. I mean, there's this new thing though where it'll like leave a voicemail for me, right? And all that stuff is great, but rarely, you don't replace it, and then the common theme there, Renee, that I want to make sure everybody takes away and we can move on because I got some questions, but it's that whether it was at your networking events, you said that they were a long-term relationship. It was work in progress. It's not something that happens at the rip, as you said, nor was it with the for sale by owners, and that card sat there for a period of time. And the problem is that in sales, what we're all accustomed to doing is looking for the right now deal. And if it ain't right now, I don't care. And what we don't realize is statistics show that right now only represents 3% of the marketplace. 97% of the marketplace is just not ready right now. And there's much more to gain in the 97% by just maintaining a solid, constructive relationship that builds trust. I don't care if the conversion cycle is 5 years. If it's a $6,000 commission and it took me 6 years, it's still $1,000 for every year. I mean, come on, it's not like I had to, put that much work into sending a card or just making a call every once in a while.
I literally just wanted a listing appointment last night. I had a listing appointment with this gentleman 4 years ago. 4 years ago, a listing appointment. And he ultimately decided not to sell at that point. 4 years later, we set the appointment. I meet with him last night. He's ready to go. 4 years to get that listing.
But two appointments, right? 2 appointments?
Yeah.
2 appointments.
2 appointments, 4 years.
Now, there's people that will go on 4 appointments in 4 months and never close the deal because they're just showing up to get the paperwork. They don't care. They're not trying to build a relationship. At the end of the day, it took you 2 sits to close the deal.
Yep.
And there are people that can't do it in, 5 and but just, the relationship is what counts. And I thought it was interesting that whether it's your networking groups or it's the clients that you're working with, the common theme is the relationships. Now, I wanted to ask one, so in 2008, I want to get past this, but there had to be all kinds of stuff going through your head. People saying you're crazy for getting into real estate, all these kind of things. And so how did you manage to keep a positive mindset and believe like I'm in the right place at the right time, regardless of all that?
So in my head, it was, if everybody's telling me this is the worst market, this is horrible, what are you doing? I mean, they literally looked at me like I had 3 heads. Like, they're like, oh, shoot. Renee's husband's gone and she's lost her damn mind, right? If I could learn to sell real estate in a down market, I can sell real estate anytime, right? And there were just so many people getting out, and I'm like, well, kind of feels like my competition is getting less, right? And I knew the work ethic that I had for the people I was working for. And to me, working 60 hours a week for someone else, I'm like, I could not fail. If I just put forth, that same effort into what it was that I was doing for me and my family, I can't fail, right? And, and there were investment opportunities, obviously, at that time, because there was, a lot of people trying to,
Sure.
Get out from under what they were under. So we just leveraged that. We leveraged the investment opportunities, and with every investment opportunity, there was someone else on the other side that needed to be helped in some way.
Yep. So
that was truly the motivation, was, truly helping these people because they really, really needed it, right? So the I'm not gonna lie, it was tough, right? Because you're watching all these other people around you starve, if you will. I'm like, well, I'm just going to keep focusing on the people and helping the people. So.
I think, if your intent is to help, there's always somebody who needs help. If your intent is to go make a bunch of commission in a market like that, there may not be, right? It's not, you're just not good. But if you're always looking to help, then there's always somebody that could use it, in which case you're useful, like let's just let us be useful. We want to be useful, and compensation comes long after that. So let's just focus on being useful. Now, so you started RSVP group. I love the name. I used to think it was like, this is stupid, but I thought it was like, man, it's like an invitation. And then it was just like yesterday. I was like, oh, Renee, Sherry, Velasquez. Oh, dang, it's not just an invitation.
Right? We're inviting you to a moving experience, the RSVP group. That actually came from a plane. We were on our way to a real estate convention. Me and a couple of friends of mine are on a plane, and my husband was the one that's like, we need to get your initials in there some way, and this, that, and everything. He always said RSVP, and I said the same exact thing, Jeff. I'm like, that's like dumb.
Well, I didn't say it was dumb. I thought it was.
I did. I take full responsibility. I said it was dumb. But in the plane, and we're just, I'm like, I'm rolling it around, and I'm talking to my friends about it, and I'm like, and it just popped in my head, and I'm like, it's the RSVP group. We're inviting you to a moving experience. And immediately I saw all my marketing, like everything looked like an invitation. I'm inviting you to the open house. I'm inviting you to make an offer. And it just, from that point on, that's what it was. But
Awesome.
you're exactly right. It's Renee, Sherry, Velasquez Property Group.
Well, and
I
love it.
Albert.
And so now you're inviting people to. Now you're inviting people to join your team, I know, and trying to get yourself surrounded by a bunch of great people. So talk to us a little bit about what's going on with that. And if you've had any struggles in trying to do that, I know there are listeners who probably would like to hear, what you've accomplished.
Yes. You mentioned before, about the hardest thing about flying a plane is taking off. Well, I have taken off and landed and taken off and landed and taken off. But that's a good thing, because with every takeoff and landing, I've learned a lot. So I've been an independent agent. I've never been on a team, but I've been an independent agent. I've been partnered with someone in the past. I then went back to being an independent agent, then decided to partner with somebody. And I've got 3 kids, right? So those of us with kids or without kids, we have busy lives. But my kids I've got a 17-year-old, an 8-year-old. My baby boy turned 8 today. It's his birthday.
That's crazy.
And then I have a 4-year-old daughter. So I have these huge age gaps between my kids, right? So they have a lot of different type of needs. So we're always running to different types of things. And I'm like, you know what, I need a partner, because I need someone to really bounce things off of and whatever. And for those reasons that, partnering is great. It's awesome. However, I've had some failed partnerships where we didn't set the right expectations up front, not expectations, but we didn't have the right agreement in place, right, Sean?
That's right.
So we didn't have the right agreement in place, and we weren't on the same page. So the partnership didn't fail. We failed the partnership, if you will, because we didn't have the right the agreement in place to make that work. So I am rebuilding and really kind of trying to, as an independent agent, you're highly profitable, right? Most independent agents are highly profitable. And then you start growing your team, and then you realize, there's a lot of expenses with doing that.
Yep.
And then you start looking at your profitability, and you're like, wow, is this really the right thing to do? You start really analyzing it, and then you second guess and so forth. So I'm really being strategic about it, and really trying to make sure that I have the right agreements in place. The people that I'm working with understand the agreement, and that we're moving in the right direction together. So, and that's through coming to EXP. That works with, building the team within EXP, and building the organization with agent attraction within EXP as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple key nuggets in there. I mean, it's all about agreements. It's agreements. Anytime you're doing anything with another human being, it's an agreement. And, the simplest of forms is getting crystal clear on who's doing what by when, and how are you guys going to know that it's getting done. I mean, that's the simplest distilled down of an agreement, and they can be for, like any time frame or whatever it is, because what things are today are not going to be 90 days from now, or even 6 months from now. So you want to constantly be revisiting those, and really really getting dialed into clear on who's doing what by when, and how are you guys going to know what's happening. And you put it really well. It didn't fail. You guys failed it. And it's just by not doing the things that we learned that we should have done, at the outset. So that's fantastic. From that point.
Making decisions, there's major decisions that need to be made within a team, and what are we focusing on, and what's the goal. And sometimes you want that partnership because you want somebody to bounce things off of and kind of share the load, if you will. But then there's times where a decision needs to be made, and you're more worried about bouncing it off of the person, and then the decision doesn't get made, and then time goes by, and you're really suffering for not being able to make those immediate decisions and making them quickly.
Gosh. Yep. Decisions.
That's, with a marriage, with a partnership in business, all of it, the decision making, you need to make sure that you're not looking at your partnership as a crutch or using them as a crutch. You truly are using it as a partnership to move forward as quickly as possible.
I'm glad you said that, because that is really key, right? Focusing in on our decisions, increasing decisions per day, increasing decisions per hour. And I think the key thing too, when you get into a partnership dynamic, is getting clear on the roles. And I think one of the biggest roles that you have to come to an agreement with in a partnership is who's head of company, and who's in charge, right? And queen of the hill, king of the hill, doesn't matter, whatever you want to call it. Somebody has to be head of company. Somebody has to call that final shot. And there's a mutual respect and understanding, and we can talk through some things, but at the end of the day, somebody has to call the shot. And that's where a lot of partnerships get tripped up. And I mean, shoot, we dealt with the same thing, right? And we dealt with the same thing with, in the Lawton office, it was crystal clear. But at one point when Jay stepped out, I was head of company, and we had to reestablish those boundaries, right? That agreement amongst each other. And, he had to shift and respect my decisions, right? Because I was head of company, and it was my shot to call at the end of the day. He would give his 2 cents like he should, but at the end of the day, that shot has to be called. And I think that's where a lot of folks, they get delayed, and sometimes they can work through it and sometimes they can't. And so let's face
it, there's a lot of ego in this business, right? There's a lot of ego, good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, there just is. And you really, like you said, there's a mutual respect, but you really have to appreciate where the other person's coming from, seek to understand where they're coming from. And then ultimately, if you still feel like the right thing to do is, that decision, then do it. And then, explain why, and hopefully, the outcome is good, and it's going towards the goal that you're both looking for. So that was a big struggle in terms of, just like you said, getting real clear on the roles and responsibilities of each other. And there's so many facets in this business. I mean, you truly got to look at every single piece of it. Who's watching the numbers, who's watching the sales, who's watching the marketing, who's, and it can become very overwhelming. You think it's overwhelming as an individual, but you're looking at it all. Now you're trying to decipher who's getting which piece. And then, and you got to do the check-ins. Just because someone says they've got that piece, you got to do the check-ins and make sure that it's being done. And
right. 100%. And you said, the key word I hope everybody picked up on a while ago is profitability. And, there's nothing in this business that is more profitable. I don't care what you guys, it's fact. There is nothing more profitable in this business than you do in production, right? There's nothing that you can be the most profitable. Where the profitability starts to slip is when you're paying out dollars in return for those commissions, and you start to stop doing the deals. And so, really making sure that you're keeping your eye on that, and understanding what is the goal, right? What is it that you're wanting to accomplish, And, you getting into real estate, one, probably peace of mind, but also, investment opportunities, and, you're going to find more deals, which you do, right? You just uncover that. But yeah, definitely paying attention to the profit. If you read, it's Vern Harnish's #1 book recommendation. It's called The Goal by Eli Goldratt. And he, that's what he talks about. There's only one goal in business, and that's to make a profit. That's to make money. You have to understand that.
Yeah. And then, I mean, even bringing on, buyer's agents or, and whatnot, you have this mentality that, oh, I'm going to bring on a buyer's agent and everything's going to be awesome because they're going to be handling this side. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh crap, like I just gave half my business away.
Yeah.
Right?
And I'm only getting 50, 60, maybe
right.
40% back.
Right. So you need to double down on the other side of it. And it does. I mean, I've listened to the so many of your guys' talks and podcasts and things like that. And you're like, damn, like, where were you guys? Like, So, but I got you now. So that's cool.
That's right.
So today, we're at July 24th, 6 months, almost 7 months through the year. So share with us, like right now, what's the driving force behind your business? What are those pillars that are really contributing the most to the bottom line now? What's your market look like? If there's any strategies that you can share with the people that are listening to us today that are working really well, let's take this last 15 minutes or so, and let's share some of the tactical things that maybe you're doing. I know I would show off, and anybody who's listening, if you have a question for Renee, let's take advantage of these 10, 15 minutes here at the end to unmute yourself or drop it in the chat or the Q&A section. But I know one thing that you're doing, Renee, and I'm just going to share everybody with everybody here real quick, if I can do it without slowing things down too much, is you've been crushing these videos on Facebook where you're talking to the consumer, and you've come up with some really creative ways to do it. And while I share that, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what you're doing with that, Renee?
So seasonality is big here. Obviously, we're in Cleveland, Ohio. Some might say we get like a whole 3 months of decent weather, and then the other 9 months are, we tolerate it. So, summertime comes, vacation, it's, people always say, well, I don't, what's the best time to sell? And they're like, oh, it's spring. And, okay, that's great. Well, everybody goes on the market in spring. So let's go ahead and go on the market when your entire competition is there, right? That makes sense. So nobody goes out schlepping through the snow in Cleveland at 9 degrees outside unless they're serious about buying a damn house, right?
Right.
So I love listing houses in the winter. But people don't want to be inconvenienced. Christmas comes, Thanksgiving comes. I mean, let's face it, Halloween comes and half the agents put their feet up and they're like, okay, the holidays are here. I'm like, hell no. Like this is
Go time.
We're just getting started, right? So during the summer, everybody gets the heck out of Dodge. It's nice, it's beautiful, like let's go on vacation. So I just started doing this whole, sell on vacation. While you're on vacation, the market was really hot, and nobody wants to be inconvenienced with the traffic through their homes, having to get their kids out of the house, having to get their dogs out of the house. And that's really kind of my avatar is the family. The mom and dad that have, 2.5 kids and the picket fence and 2 dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And so what are the problems that they're facing? Well, they got to pack these kids up and they got to leave the house and they've got to clean up the dog fur. So just started addressing all the issues that they would possibly have in selling your house. And says, well, why don't you go ahead, pack up, clean the house one time, go on vacation. While you're on vacation, we're going to have all the showings, get all that done. We're going to get it under contract. And when you come home, all you need to do is worry about the paperwork. That's it, right? So we just started hitting it with videos to address those issues.
Do more.
I know. But like all things, when it starts working, what do you do?
We're not going to stop.
No. I'm going to keep going. But so did that. And that's been fun. Like I actually enjoy that part of it because I don't think people expect it. Nobody expects to open their Facebook and see real estate agent with vacuum cleaners and dust mops behind them, and they're like, what is this about?
Renee, can I unpack that for everybody listening in? So
Yeah.
I want everybody. She gave you 3 golden nuggets on creating content and building your brand and marketing. One is she knows her client. She knows her client. How many of you listening in know your client? I mean, she knows them. They probably even have names, right?
Her name's Jill.
There you go. And then she knows their situation. She knows the challenge that they're going through. And the third is, and this is where the content comes in, is that she speaks to their solution. She has the solution. And here is the solution. That's her content. She knows who her client is. She knows the problem. And then she speaks and creates her content as the solution. So I just wanted to get unpack that for everybody, because it was a huge golden nugget. And for a lot of people, it flies right by. And so I just want to make sure everybody caught that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Content's everywhere. Content's in every conversation that you have with the client. Content's in that for sale by owner that Renee didn't end up listing. Content's in the buyer that you just showed 5 houses to and they're still indecisive on what they like and what they don't like. Content's everywhere. It's just, so this is ironic that just a little bit earlier I had a break and I ran yesterday, so I got on the bike and I took a quick little bike ride and I was listening to an audiobook, and one of the things that was said was experience. It's often said that experience is the key, but it's not. It's really experience that is evaluated. That's the key. Plenty of people experience the same damn thing over and over and over, and they still can't figure it out. It's not the teacher. Actually, what was said was experience is the best teacher. Well, if that was true, we wouldn't repeat the same thing over and over, right? And so it's the evaluated experience, and that's content. It's taking the experience and the interactions that you just had and evaluating what that is and creating a piece of content. If you have, Renee likely had somebody at some point who said, well, I just don't want to sell my home because it's so cluttered up. Wow. All right. Well, that's a piece of content I can create literally out of the discussion that I had with that person. But you got to be aware and evaluate those interactions. But that'll make it easy to create content.
Right. And then you can layer that with, okay, great. So their house is all cluttered. They have this, they have that, and you look, so I have this cleaning company, that's going to, and, an affiliate. I have this cleaning company and maybe they offer $10, $20 off of cleaning if they schedule with you and they clean it and then they go on vacation and, or I don't have anywhere to take my pet for the, for the showings, and nope, you're going to go on vacation. You're going to kennel the pet. By the way, I have a referral for this kennel down the street. They're amazing. They're going to offer you 1 day free, whatever it is, create the relationships, the affiliates to kind of piggyback to answer those problems for them.
So, I know, that talks a little bit about your content strategy, and I know you're building your audience through that, but let's talk about lead generation. So let's break it down for everybody just so they can kind of take a look behind the curtain. What are your pillars right now that are generating business when it comes to lead generation?
Number 1 and number 2 are Facebook and just constantly putting out content and database. Sounds like real estate 101, but I neglected my database there for a bit. Got focused on different shiny objects and realized, I'm like, wow, I started looking at where my business was coming from, and I'm like, my referrals are really lacking over this period of time. And so I started re-engaging with my past clients in a sphere. Just recently, it was 105 degrees outside, right? So I literally went to the grocery store, bought the store out. It was like $1.89 a box. There's 20 in a box. They're the freezer pops, right? So they're liquid in the little plastic tube, and you throw them in the freezer. And so I'm like, cool, they're not going to melt because they're already liquid, right? So I just bought the store out, just had a little sticker on it that had a basset hound with their ears blown back by a fan that said "Stay cool," and it had my number, and I literally went out. Now, you can pay someone to do this, obviously, and get somebody to do this, but I wanted my clients to see me on their ring. I wanted them to see me on their nest, right? Because if somebody's walking up to their doorstep, I wanted them to see my face this time. So it's 105 degrees out, and I'm running around putting boxes of freezer pops on their doorstep.
That's awesome.
I got 3 leads, a listing, and a buyer referral from doing that, and that was all about re-engaging with my clients. Pictures of, free marketing, guys. My clients were literally posting pictures of their kids holding the box of popsicles, saying, "Our realtor sold us this house 4 years ago, and she's still with us," right? And ultimately, I just wanted it to be something fun and cool and whatnot, and was not expecting that type of response at all. It's awesome, absolutely awesome. So, and then that, they're them putting it on Facebook, it went right back to Facebook, which then allowed me to re-engage with my sphere and past clients, and it was just super cool, and it's awesome.
I love it. It reminds me of somebody else that we know that got at the last eclipse. They got kitchens, you know what I'm talking about, got the glasses. Yep. And advertised that we have the special glasses for the eclipse that's going to happen. This was like 2-3 years ago, the big eclipse that only happens so often. We have the only glasses because everybody was trying to get these glasses, and they stop by our office and you can get a free pair. And they were like, people, line out the door, and they couldn't have it. Nobody had any glasses anymore. They were fighting over the glasses. It was good, but giving people what they want has nothing to do with creating a great experience and giving
people
them what they
love
want.
the little things. They really do. It doesn't have to be some grandiose thing. They love the little things. 4th of July, we do flags in a neighborhood, and this year, instead of just the flags and a business card or whatever, we put flag etiquette attached to the flag. So exactly what you're supposed to do with the flag at certain times of the year, certain days, hours of the day, things like that. And the response we got from that was like, that was so cool, because it's something that not a lot of people know. Guys in the military, they know the flag etiquette, but some people don't. So they were super appreciative of that. Silly things. I keep looking over because I have this.
I saw that. That's from a post you just had recently.
Right. It's in our area, summertime. It's garage sale season, and people got their signs, and they're making signs with cardboard and whatever. And so I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna get signs printed up, put it out there, say, hey, if you need garage sale signs, call me. You can come pick them up. We make them dry erase so they can just write their stuff on it, and then they just wipe them down, and then they come return them to me. So they got to come and pick them up, so they got to see my office. Then they use them, and I've obviously got their address or whatever. I will, if I'm in the area, I'll snap a picture of their signs out, and I'll post it on my Facebook going, hey, so-and-so's having a garage sale, swing by, buy their stuff, whatever. So they get free publicity on it as well. I tag them in it. And then they got to come and drop them back off. And then I'm like, how was the sale? And, it just creates that conversation. And, now I've got friends of mine driving, and they'll send me they'll take a picture, and they're like, why are you on this garage sale sign? Like, all you need to know is I'm on it, right? You saw my name, and it caused you to have to call me or text me or whatever, right?
It's creating those, it's creating the raving fan club. And, it's the items that you have in there that you can provide for your past clients, the people, and provide for the people that know you, like you, love you, trust you. And you can have whatever in there, right? I mean, our favorite item, we got it from coaching Lars Hedenborg at the time. And Lars and his office assistant came and spent a couple days with us in Lawton. And next thing, we were talking about the Raving Fan Club or something in there, and we were talking about margaritas or something. And next thing I know, about a week later, there's a big old box coming into the office from Lars. That was a margarita machine. So, this is going to the Raving Fan Club. So we let our clients like, hey, if you guys are having a party, you want to borrow a margarita machine, come get it. And it's just cool stuff like that allows you to have those collisions, right? That you have the collisions with the people that you've done business with, that are going to stop traffic, people, in traffic that are thinking about real estate to talk about you. It's just doing those things.
And flags, like we had a you know kids in the Boy Scouts put them out. Like we made a donation to them. They put them out for us, so it was they were loving it because it's part of their service stuff.
Sure.
And people were thanking them as well, so they got really excited. And yeah, it's cool stuff like that. Like I like when real estate can be fun, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And when it's not fun, that's when you need to reevaluate, right?
Yep.
I say that to my buyers and sellers as well. I'm like, hey, if you're looking to buy a house and it stops being fun, we probably need to sit down and have a conversation.
I love that. I love that. And that's a great point there, even on the within your business, right? You need to step back and reevaluate, get clear on what is the real goal here. What is it that we're trying to accomplish? It was fun at some point. We probably stopped doing something that was fun. We probably need to reevaluate and look back to how we can have a great time.
So as we wrap up today, Renee, what are you most excited about between now and the rest of the year?
My goodness. Well, I can't be more excited about seeing some of you guys in Key West. Like, oh my God. I can't wait. But most importantly, I'm just setting myself up to make sure that, you know, going into, you know, it'll be 2 months here and we'll have snow. Such a horrible word, but at any rate, we'll have snow. It'll start getting cold and the agents will start dropping their feet up, right? I'm excited about taking market share. That's what I'm excited about, because I'm not going to let up, and I'm not going to let the people in my organization let up, and we're going to take market share.
We lose her. Just cut out on us a little bit.
Yeah, audio. Now you're back.
Back.
Well, it was really great stuff. I'm really sorry you missed it. Like, I mean, mic drop stuff.
Mic drop.
Yeah. It went over my head. I couldn't even hear it. It was so over my head.
Just focused on taking market share for the rest of the year. That's what we're focused on.
I love it, because you're right. People do. I mean, you know, you get to, like, you know, October, people just like, oh, the year's already done, and it's just ridiculous. You can, man, you get a little bit this year, a little bit next year, a little bit next year. Pretty soon, you know, you're at the top. So I love that answer. I love that answer, and it reminds me of something else I heard today was that, you know, you work 80 hours a week, so you don't have to work 40 hours a week. And the point being is that, you know, same thing as saying that you do what very few will do, so that then you can do what nobody else can. You know, you're going to hit it hard while they're taking a little vacation or whatever, getting to the warmer weather. Maybe they want to come here to Grapevine, Texas, because in about 2 months it'll probably still be 100 degrees. But they can take their little vacation out here, and you'll work their hours for them. You're going to work their hours for them, right? But later they're going to be like, damn, I gotta work. Business has been slow. And you just don't know when you're going to suffer the consequences of that. You can't make up what you don't do today, because you can only put 100% in tomorrow.
Correct. And those Christmas bills aren't going to pay themselves, so you got to get after it.
That's it. It's fantastic. Well, Renee, absolute gold as always. I would say, you know, one thing that just everybody as we wrap up here, you know, I wrote it down in the beginning. You know, your mindset is everything, and that's why you are who you are. And it's just even like that little nugget going into the seasonality is that you have the mindset, you know, the market doesn't slow, only agents do. And I'm not going to be the agent that slows. And so I absolutely appreciate you and appreciate you taking the time and jumping on with us. Mr. Kiani.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Renee. As always, it's great having you here in person or on a conference. And I want to remind everybody, you know, Renee mentioned earlier, she came to us through recommendation and started coaching with us. And that all starts usually with one phone call. And so if you want to schedule that phone call, go to kinderreescoaching.com, learn a little bit more about our philosophy when it comes to coaching, and then be sure and schedule a call, and we can start to create a plan to grow your business. But again, thank you, Renee, and we will sign off for today, guys. Crush it the rest of the week.
Renee, thank you so
guys.
much. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jeff.